today, a story so tragic that it made me take a second look. This man beat his mother to death with a hammer. There's no dispute about that. The question is, why? He says a fog of allergy medicine made him do it. We're going inside your medicine cabinet and we're asking, can allergy medicine make you kill? And the killer's sister is here. What she says about the case may surprise you. But first, crime correspondent Melissa Moore has the story.
It was an attack so brutal that prosecutors decided not to show autopsy photos.
The victim had a crushed skull and crushed facial bones in numerous places.
26-year-old David McGee bludgeoned his mother to death.
Crime scene investigators looked at the apartment and discovered a bloody hammer next to the bed and blood spatter all over the wall.
At the trial, McGee's lawyer said the killing happened in a, quote, fog of Benadryl. She claimed David was completely under the influence of the allergy medication when he committed the horrific crime. But a jury of his peers were not swayed. After less than a day of deliberations, David was found guilty of first-degree murder. Now, two questions remain. Why did he do it? And is allergy medication to blame for a crime that completely devastated a family?
Melissa Moore joins us. So what stood out the most to you about this case?
Well, there's two things that stood out to me. First, just watching the trial, it was absolutely heartbreaking, but also the fact that these common everyday medications that we use could be used as a defense for murder. Like we covered, cold medicine, that was a defense. We covered eye drops, that was a defense, and now it's Benadryl.
David's story is a strange one. What's his relationship with his mother like?
Well, it's really unique. This is a family that they lived together. The son was 26. He was living in a one-bedroom apartment with his mother. He had a close relationship with her, but it sounded like there was some contention. From what we heard in the courtroom is that the mother was badgering him to get a job.
Mm-hmm. And do you know if he had any mental health issues, anything prior to this murder that might explain why he did it?
Yeah, he was living at home because he had an unexpected stroke at the age of 14.
At 14?
At 14. And so this really hurt the family, but also caused them to get closer together because they thought they were going to lose him, that he was going to die. And so they rallied together to save his life, but this ultimately impacted his life forever. He was never the same ever since. He suffered from depression. He didn't finish his high school. And so this ultimately, really caused him to have a less quality of life.
This issue of the fog of Benadryl, which is what David's attorney used as a defense, had it ever been used before? Where did the idea come from? Had you ever heard of this?
No, I've never heard of it in this sense, and it's never been the cause for murder. And I know for myself when I take Benadryl, like it knocks me out. Like it's actually more like a sleeping pill for me. But for him, I think it had different consequences.
So David was ultimately found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 26 years to life. So the scene in the courtroom was very unusual after the case, after the verdict. What did the judge allow that's so unusual?
What's unusual is that he allowed the family members to come in. The maternal grandmother came and hugged him. The sister came in and was with him. And this is not a normal procedure.
I'm sorry, so the mother of the dead woman and the daughter of the dead woman both hugged the murderer.
Correct. And that's unusual for a judge to allow that, but also he actually wrote a suicide note.
Oh, he did?
He did. He wrote a suicide note and saying that the reason he killed his mother first was that she wouldn't witness or live with his death.
So he argued that I'll kill you first, then I'll kill myself.
Correct.
All right, so we're up next, the science behind whether allergy medicine can be used as a deadly weapon. What really happened that day? We're back taking a forensic look at the death of Rebecca Apodaca, whose son was convicted of bludgeoning her to death with a hammer. Now, he says he committed the horrific crime because he was under a fog of an allergy medicine. Our esteemed forensic criminologist, Dr. Laura Pettler, is here in the crime lab. So the toxicology report says that David ingested between 80 and 100 of these, right, allergy pills at 25 milligrams a pill. Now, just to give you an idea, right, that's abuse of a medication. That is a lot of pills to take. And that's what he says he took the night that he murdered his mother. The label, by the way, if you look at it, it says take 1 to 2 tablets every 4 to 6 hours. If you take 80 or more pills in a 24-hour period, you are more likely to overdose than to kill somebody else. So we don't actually know what caused David to kill his mother with a hammer, but the autopsy report does give us some clues. At least you know what's going on in David when this all took place. So Laura, tell us about the where.
So the where, we were going to use this dollhouse to explain what happened in this case. The victim appears to have been ambushed from behind because the autopsy report shows that she had some wounds to the back of her legs, some bruises, and also to her arms. Then the victim ends up somehow over here on the bed. The hammer, of course, was found near her body on the nightstand, but her injuries, Dr. Oz, are craniofacial. So that means that most of the attack was actually just face on, head on, right to the top and in front of her head. Typically with face down victims, we find those in anger-based crime scenes.
Now let's talk about how she was attacked. This is important. The autopsy reports say that small bits of bone and brain fragments were found on the bed and the floor, along with blood spatter on the walls and the ceilings.
Yes.
Can you just show me how that would have happened?
So as far as the small fragments of bone, she has subarachnoid hemorrhaging, which is about 6 layers down through past the skull, past all of the other membranes there. So those bones break into a million pieces and just shatter. Okay. So that's why you have it on the floor. Yes. Okay. And then we're going to do this demonstration. It's going to kind of explain a little bit. Now, you're going to have to be careful because, oh, well, look at this. This is service, isn't it?
I was trying to be your scrub nurse here.
Yes, I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to demonstrate how blood spatters. Blood has a specific viscosity, and this blood is viscosity that it's similar to milk. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a little bit of blood, and this is not real blood, by the way, fake. And then when force is applied to blood, especially in a beating death or in a stabbing death, this is kind of what happens. I have to open this up just a little bit. I'm going to apply force to this blood, and it's going to spatter.
Ooh.
Or if I change the direction of my hand this way, it spatters that way. So in order to have spatter, you have to have an injury. The blood pools into the injury first, and then when the weapon, like this, I'm going to take this glove off, when the weapon, specifically a hammer, is used in this particular case, when it's applied to the same area that created the injury first, you get what we have here in the demonstration in the box.
Okay. Now, David, where did they find him?
David. So David, the convicted son, he is found in the closet. So fascinating because he could have gone anywhere in this house, but what he does, he stays in the closet. We know that he had tried to commit suicide. He slit his wrists and things, but
so he followed through in the letter that Melissa mentioned.
Yes.
He did slit his wrists and he did slit his throat. And then he did take pills after he murdered his mother.
So put this all together for us. We know he took the Benadryl.
Yeah.
Were his acts intentional, or were they under the fog of some allergy medication?
In this particular case, we have all of the craniofacial injuries. That's the listed cause of death on the autopsy report. So it's a purposeful location. He's not beating her big toe with a hammer. He's beating her craniofacially. So it's a deliberate, intentional act.
All right, we cannot ignore the fact that David allegedly had an unexplained stroke as a teenager. That's unusual. We tried to get the medical reports. We were unable to, so I can't confirm that, but it was discussed in the court proceedings. There can be cognitive changes after stroke. That's true. You can have problems solving challenging issues. You can have difficulty understanding concepts. We know some of the common side effects of allergy medications. You mentioned, Melissa, drowsiness. That's the most common one. That's why people take them. Fatigue, dizziness, constipation,
anxiety.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But
Not murder. Murder is not a side effect of an allergy medication. So what prompted David to do this, in your opinion, Laura?
You know, it's hard to say exactly, but we know that he did have some cognitive deficiencies due to the stroke. Typically with an anger-based killing, like what we see in this situation, it's some event that triggers the offender to attack.
Remember, David claims he was going to kill himself first, but then decided to kill his mother so she wouldn't have to live with his suicide. So up next, David's sister's here. She's going to speak out about that and what she says you don't know about this case and why she forgives her brother for killing their mother. We're back investigating if over-the-counter allergy medicine could have led a son to bludgeon his mother to death. David McKee says he was under the influence of allergy medicine. His sister Ella joins us now. When did you first realize there was a problem with your mom?
My mother was supposed to go to dinner with my grandmother and one of her friends. So when my grandmother called me and said, hey, I can't get a hold of your mom. And so I decided just to go over to her house.
So you go into the house, and what do you see?
I saw my mother laying on her bed, face down. And it literally looked as though she was just sleeping.
But she wasn't.
No. I went over to her, and I was like, I touched her shoulder, and I was like, hey, Mom, you forgot to pick up Grandma. Aren't you going to dinner with Madeline and Grandma? And the second I touched her shoulder, I realized that something was not okay. Because she was not the right temperature that a person should be.
I know this is hard, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
It's something that you always think happens to other people until you realize that to other people, you are other people. And anything can happen to anyone, and it's awful.
Your brother, was he quiet? Did you hear him? How did you find him?
I didn't know that he was there at first because I didn't see him, but I found my brother in the closet. And the first thing that I thought at that point was that someone had come in and hurt my mom and that my brother was hiding.
Were you scared at this point? Because you didn't know what had happened to your mom. The perpetrator could be anywhere, and if it was your brother, did it ever cross your mind that it could be your brother?
No, it didn't. Like I said, I thought if he was hiding, the only thing that I thought was that he was scared of someone else. There was no point in which I was afraid of my brother or thought that he could have done something.
Had your brother ever demonstrated signs of mental illness?
My brother had had a stroke when he was 14 years old. But afterwards, a lot of people, I guess, with life and death experiences like that, they either go one way, like where they embrace life to the fullest, or they get really depressed and reclusive. And my brother was one of the people that got really depressed and reclusive.
Was there ever a moment as he was suffering through the depression and whatever damage happened because of the stroke where you thought he might be a danger to himself, to you, to your mother?
Never a point. I mean, I thought maybe at a certain point that he was in danger of hurting himself, but that point passed and he went back to school, he gained friends outside of that, he got a job and everything. And so I didn't really worry about that as much, but obviously I should have.
Well, should have is a very dangerous combination of words.
You're right.
This defense of being in the fog of an allergy medicine, do you think as a sister that was what happened that evening?
I do. I know that Benadryl is the same thing as a sleeping pill. And my brother had taken so many of them, like I'm amazed that he could function even. So the fact that something awful happened, I absolutely believe that if he had not been under that influence, that he would have been able to control himself or not have had that happen. It was preventable.
You've forgiven him for killing your mother?
I have forgiven him. I love my brother. He will always be my brother. I feel very strongly that just because someone does a bad thing does not make them a bad person. But I forgive my brother because he will always be my brother. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's okay. What has he told you about how he feels about what happened?
He feels such immense guilt, and that he regrets absolutely everything that led up to what happened, and that he wishes that and this hurts me so much, but he wishes that he had just followed through with killing himself first, so that I would still have my mom, and he wishes that he could undo it, and now he wishes that eventually he can get out of prison to try and start doing something to right some of the wrong that he did.
How do you want all of us to remember your mom?
My mom was the coolest person ever. She was my best friend. She was immensely into music, and when I was about 11 years old, we started going to concerts together. She was an amazing friend to me, to her best friend, to my grandparents, to everyone that she met. Everyone liked my mom. You hear people say that a lot, but everyone did like my mom. And I want her to be remembered as someone who cared so deeply about other people and wanted to make the world a better place.
Well, I'm going to remember her for raising a wonderful young woman.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.